Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm excited to dive in with you. So tell us how you currently introduce yourself at networking events if you're out and meeting new people.
Yes. So it's been a bit of an evolution, but I refer to myself as a next level coach
Yeah.
for wannabe entrepreneurs and executives who want to get to the next level in their business and in their life. And I was a program manager and I delivered a multi-billion-dollar platform for PlayStation. So a lot of the methodologies and skills I learned doing that are now what I apply to my clients in their lives and their businesses.
Okay, so if you hear noise in the background, I'm like writing down a note. So tell us, multi-billion-dollar what? I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa.
so it's an e-commerce platform that I was the lead program manager for, and I Googled this about a couple months ago, and last year it brought $8.4 billion in revenue to
Jeez.
PlayStation. So I had the honor and the blessing of being able to lead that initiative, and I feel honored that I can use those same methodologies and skills to actually apply that to smaller businesses or to executives for corporations, but also using it for making sure that their life is balanced. A lot of times when I'm working with entrepreneurs or executives, they're just pounding and in the middle of burning out. So
Yeah.
it's finding that balance.
I feel like I definitely do that. I get into this like workaholic cycle and then I just don't want to do anything. Like I feel like it's like
Yes.
up and down, up and down.
Yeah, and that's what I work with my clients to make sure that they're always doing self-care, that they have a morning routine, that they're rewarding themselves and celebrating
Right.
their victories instead of just pushing through like nose to the grindstone.
That's true. Cause it's like, sometimes you're like, okay, I got that, but who cares? What's the next one? And you're just like always climbing the mountain and
Yeah,
never looking out at the view that you just ascended to.
absolutely. And that's the thing that I find is people like I have my clients fill out this form and it says 3 accomplishments from the previous week. And
Aha.
it doesn't even have to be like a huge business win. It could be I like recently I had a 40th birthday party for my husband, or I went to the beach and had an amazing day with my kids. It can
Yeah.
be that kind of stuff too, you know.
Yeah.
But that's always the hardest part of the form for myself and for my clients to fill out, because they're like, what did I accomplish last week?
Yeah.
How can I actually pat myself on the back for something I did? Because that's something that I find in our culture we haven't really done a lot of. We haven't been raised. It's just constantly pushing forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like great in some ways because then we're always innovating and creating, but then bad because it takes a toll. Like I know sometimes when I work so much, then like I'm almost like out of commission for a week versus if I had taken breaks along the way, then I wouldn't just completely hit a wall.
Absolutely. Well, it was interesting because a few months ago I went to Brendan Bouchard, the High Performance Academy conference, and
Mm-hmm.
he said that, and he studies high performers, right? And he said that one of the one of the things that high performers do is every 50 minutes they'll take like a 5 or 10 minute break. And
Mm-hmm.
so for him, even if he's like in the zone and he's like writing something or doing something, he will stop himself and he will take the break because he knows that it's actually going to help him be more creative and productive over the day, so in the long run.
I love that. And that's such an easy hack to do. Like, maybe it's similar to like the Pomodoro technique. Have you heard of it
Yeah,
called
yeah,
that? You like
yeah.
set an egg timer for 45 minutes or 50 minutes and you just work on one thing and don't get distracted. And then once that timer goes off, then set the timer for 5, 10, maybe 15, whatever minutes, and take a break, stand up and stretch or
Yeah,
do something fun, eat a snack or whatever. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
aligns with what you're talking about too.
definitely.
I love that. So, if you wouldn't mind, will you tell us a little bit about your transformational year? Like, because you're coaching people to kind of come through a period of feeling of imbalance and stress and get to the next level. Can you tell us about how your transformation was? Because you went through this too,
Yeah. So I would say I feel like I've been through several
right?
transformations.
For
So
sure.
the one transformation, so maybe if I can briefly talk about two,
Sure.
my first major transformation was when I transitioned from the corporate world to become an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And that was just flailing around, like trying to figure out what to do.
Hmm.
And for a while, I was going at it on my own and just really trying to reinvent the wheel in a sense
Mm.
because I didn't know what it was to be an entrepreneur. So for me, it was I, and I felt like I had to Lone Ranger it. Like I
Right.
just had to just buckle down and do this by myself. But then I started to get coaching myself. I started to get mentors and fellow entrepreneurs like yourself, also a mentor to me with this book writing process. And and then being part of different entrepreneur groups, like we're part of the ST entrepreneurs group together.
With
And then
Kathleen.
yeah, and so it and then I realized, wow, like I don't have to do this all by myself. Like
Mhm.
I can do this in community and I can learn from other mentors. Like even this process of of self-publishing this book on Amazon. I mean, I thank God that you're guiding me in this process because if I had to just Google and go on YouTube and
Yeah.
and I didn't have someone who I could go to with questions, it would be very challenging and it would have taken a lot longer. So I think that was one transformation. And then my more recent transformation was seeing myself as an entrepreneur and seeing myself pushing and at different stages getting burned out myself
Yeah.
and then realizing, okay, wait, am I just repeating? Like I wanted one of the reasons I wanted to become an entrepreneur was I wanted to have a better lifestyle
Right.
and I
Right.
wanted to be happier and more joyful and fulfilled. And but then I was kind of repeating some of the patterns that I had learned from my corporate days of just trudging through and hustling. And so for me, I had to take a step back and go, okay, well, what do I want my lifestyle to really look like? How does this business fit into that? How
Hmm.
can I have like a sustainable way of being and working? And so for me, for instance, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm going to go to Hawaii for a month
Oh,
um,
nice.
from next week. And so I'm from Hawaii, and I wanted to be able to bring my kids and have them stay for a month. And so it's going to be a combination of work and play and
Mhm.
the laptop lifestyle, which I know you're all about.
Yes.
And so yeah, like I love that I'll be able, so and I've been arranging my schedule, and actually Jana Bresenden, a friend of ours, helped me with this idea. But I am going to work in the mornings and work in the evenings while I'm there, and
Uh-huh.
here and there during the daytime, depending. My husband will be there too to to help out, but so that I can really have beach time and fun time and hiking time with my
Yeah.
kids and have time for my own restoration, but still move my business and support my clients.
Hmm. I love that. I know. I love like when I was in Europe, for example, because the time zone was so different, I could have the entire day to just explore and play and see everything. And then at night, I would come back and work. And that's when all the US or most of my clients were then awake. And so it was kind of a cool way to split it up. So
Yeah.
maybe too, being in Hawaii, it's still a few time zones different. How far is it ahead of California? The
So
time
it's
zone.
3 hours behind.
Okay.
So like if
Right.
I'm doing a 10 a.m. call here in California, it's 7 a.m. in Hawaii,
Right.
which
So
is great
yeah.
because that's when my kids are going to be sleeping in.
Yeah,
And
exactly. So like
yeah,
yours can get a bunch of stuff done in the morning, and then in the like afternoon in the US is kind of winding down, so you can go and have fun. And I love that.
yeah, it'll be fun. I'll let you. I want to document the process too for other people so that they have the benefit of being able to hopefully do something like that as well.
Yeah. That reminds me then of a tool, worldtimebuddy.com.
Okay.
Worldtimebuddy.com. I love it. It's like you can pick different time zones and it'll line it up in sequence right above each other, so you can see at a glance what time it is in your time zone, East
Oh,
Coast, West Coast, Hawaii. Like you can, I think you can
yeah.
pick up to 4 for free of different time zones. And I don't know, I love it. I'll take a screenshot if I'm going to be somewhere for a while, and I'll put it on my desktop so I can just refer back to it, because just processing what time is it everywhere in the world can really be mentally draining if you're out of your
Yeah,
usual
no,
one.
that's really good because I I just took on a client and he's American, but he works in Russia.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, being able to, and if I'm in Hawaii, okay,
Yeah.
what's the time? So
I
yeah.
know. It'll save you a lot of mental strain.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that tip. I appreciate
Yeah, for sure. Very cool. So let me see here. So I'd love to ask you about your book. And as we talk about your book, maybe pull out some tips and tricks that people listening right now can start applying to
Sure,
achieve some of
sure.
this work-life balance. So what stage are you in right now? And just for context, we're recording this on July 12th, 2018. So what stage are you in with your book right now?
Before I answer that question,
Mm,
are you okay? Because I am hearing some construction outside and my window is open. I just want to make sure it's not affecting
it's not
quality.
distracting. I
Okay,
can't really
perfect.
tell. Oh, actually, now I
Okay,
can hear it, but it's fine. I think
okay,
it's good we have these.
okay, perfect. So, in terms of where I'm at right now with the book, I am launching my book on my Kindle book on August 1st.
Mhm.
So, yeah, about
2
a
weeks or
little over
so.
2 weeks away, which is a little freaky to say the least.
And you're gonna be in Hawaii during the launch?
Yes, and
Ah.
I can't wait to like kind of scope out a location of where I want to like announce the launch.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere, obviously, like on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
But so yeah, am. I have the draft complete. I have some final editing happening right now. I am thinking of adding a couple of things, but it it won't like hold up. Obviously, like the launch date. I'm going to see if
Uh-huh.
I can squeeze them in. But as you've taught me, one of the beautiful things about Kindle in particular is if I want to add something later,
Mhm.
I can do that fairly easily, which is
Yeah.
cool.
You have full
But
control.
yeah, so I'm excited about this. I have my husband illustrating. He illustrated the design cover
Oh,
because
cool.
my husband he's not a professional artist, but he's a very talented artist, very artistic. And so is working on the final sketches, and I have a graphic designer who's actually going to kind of put the vector image and everything together for the book design, and just setting things up on Amazon. So that's where I'm at in the process.
Very cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see the cover design. Are you going to share it soon on social media? And we can even, I'll put a picture back in the show notes if anyone's listening to this as a podcast, if they want to go back and see it
Yeah, it's not the final version, but I do have the preliminary sketch that I did
Cool.
put on my Facebook,
Oh, I'll have
and
to go find it.
yeah, I can tag you on it if you want to take a look, but I'm
Yeah.
really really pleased with it, and it means a lot to me that my husband and I could co-collaborate in
Yeah.
this project together.
That's
Yeah,
really cool. It makes it even more special. And I bet for your
absolutely.
kids too to see it come together.
Yeah, like they're freaking out, thinking they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be on Amazon." Like,
That's so cool. I know, and Jana said the same thing. Jana just, who you mentioned, she launched a month or two ago, and she said
yeah,
that one of the biggest joys she got out of it was just her kids' reactions because they're like
yeah,
teenagers and they don't usually care about anything. But when they saw her book on Amazon, they're like, "Whoa, mom, that's so cool!"
yeah, yeah. It is really exciting, definitely.
That's amazing.
But in terms of your question and in terms of
Yeah.
tips, you had some ideas about tips and self-care, and actually the title of my book is Beyond Blending In: An
Hmm.
Immigrant Daughter's Guide to Overcoming Cultural Bonds for a Life of Authenticity and Abundance.
Wow.
And so a lot of what I talk about in the book is actually tools and strategies to not necessarily feel like you have to blend in.
Mm.
And I obviously am Asian, and I it's interesting though because I'm half Asian, half um, German, and I grew up until I was 11 in a very white community. I was like the only Asian person.
And where was this?
This was in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And so I actually wanted to, obviously physically I couldn't blend in, but I wanted to be white. Like I wanted to do everything that every other person around me did, and I just wanted to blend in and not
Mm.
be different. And then it was funny because I moved to Hawaii when I was 11, which is primarily an Asian culture.
Right.
And they saw me as weird because I didn't act like a typical Asian person.
Right.
I acted more white. And so they would tell, like, I was very outspoken. I was always raising my hand in class, and I remember people saying, "Oh, Wendy's such a show off. Like she's such a know-it-all." And so then I had to try and blend into the Asian culture. And
Mm.
oh, okay, I can't raise my hand in class. I can't be outspoken. And so it's in and then I was in the corporate world,
Mm.
and I was like, okay, as especially as an immigrant, a daughter of an immigrant, it was like, okay, I just need to fit in so that I can climb the ladder,
Right.
so that I can be successful. And it was very hard to live that way because I wasn't being authentic and true to who I was. And I had so much fear about how I appeared in front of other people, what people thought of me, what what people thought of my ideas.
Mhm.
And then I and then I thought, wow, like I feel called to become an entrepreneur, to make a difference in people's lives, to help people. And then there was more fear. It was like, oh, how do I do that? Because my whole life I've been trying to blend in, but this requires me to stand
Mm.
out, to be
Mm.
truly authentic to who I am, to not be trapped by what everybody thinks I should be doing, but really be true to who I am and what I want to be doing.
Right.
And it was very challenging to say the least, but super grateful for this journey and the life that I now have. And so the tips and things that I talk about in the book are really about empowering people to be authentic, to be true to who they are, versus and to do really what makes them feel alive
Mm.
versus just kind of sticking to whatever they're supposed to be doing.
Can you give an example of something that you have found that you want to do more of to make you feel alive, or maybe a client without naming a name? Can you give an example of something that people have done that illustrate that?
Yeah, well, I can talk about a client recently. Um, I will call her Jennifer. Jennifer is usually the generic name that I use unless her name is really Jennifer, which it's not in this case. So Jennifer is a client of mine. She's in the corporate world, very successful. She also is actually, she's an immigrant herself. She's from a different country, and she's a single mom, and she's really lived kind of in survival. I've got to work hard. I got to make money so that I can make my parents proud, so that I can live the American dream, so that I can support my children. And so when we started working together a couple of months ago, she was so burned out. She was super overwhelmed. I mean, she was really, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but she almost seemed like she was depressed. I obviously can't diagnose, but she was very down.
Right.
And so one of the things I asked her is, when was the last time you took a vacation? And it had been 3 years ago.
Wow.
And she had a great, I also have some background in financial coaching, and she didn't have any debt. She had a great amount of savings. She was being really responsible with her money. And I was just kind of like, okay, why aren't you going on a vacation?
Yeah.
You know, why? And for her, it was, she was really scared to go on a vacation.
Like scared to lose traction at work, or
To lose traction at work, to spend money, because she had been she had been divorced, and her husband had been very irresponsible with money at times, which had an impact on her. And then so she was really afraid of leaving work. She was afraid of like cutting into her savings. She was afraid of all of these things. And I asked her, like, well, what do you think you need to do? Like, if you put fear to the side and you were going to do something that was loving toward you, that was loving toward your daughters. And she was like, I would go on vacation. I would go to Cabo. I would swim with the dolphins with so we actually had her kind of visualize this vacation.
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because it seems like such a simple thing, but for her, it was so difficult to like break out of that. And then she just got back from vacation. She was literally a different person.
Wow.
Like, she saw herself now as this joyful, abundant, strong, powerful person, because she went to Mexico as a single mom. She created, her daughters had never been on an airplane before.
Oh, wow.
They did go swim with dolphins. So she felt so great, and they like talk about it every day. So they're actually going to be going in a couple months again.
Amazing.
But it's funny because, like, in her job, there's been some issues, and she, like, there have been management changes. There have been actually one of her mentors got laid off, or let go, I should say. And before, she would have been freaked out, but now she's at total peace. And she's like, I can't control what's going to happen with management. All I can do is do my best, look at potential opportunities, even with what's going on. So just something simple like that really shifted kind of the way that she saw her mindset. And now she's showing up at work as this leader.
Right.
Because everyone else around her is freaking out. And she's like, no, like, let's just do our best. Let's figure out what we can control, and then be surrendered about the rest. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. And it seems to me interesting that, like, you would think that I need to be stressed and freaked out to be on top of the situation, but actually by kind of letting go and trying to find more peace and balance inadvertently actually makes you be able to deal with the situation better and be seen externally as more of a calm, clear-headed leader. So it
Exactly.
almost seems like ironic or like the opposite of what you would expect, but by actually getting more grounded and maybe getting more distance from work, you can actually do better at work.
Yeah, it's true. Like now you can actually be creative
Mhm.
and be solution oriented. And with with Jennifer in particular, she was so attached to her work that every single thing that happened was like a major issue,
Mhm.
which meant she was in this fight or flight mode. And when you're in fight
Right.
or flight mode, you can't actually be strategic. You
Right.
can't be very problem solving oriented, right?
Mhm.
Because you're just reacting and you're just freaking out. So one of her goals is to get a promotion. So it's funny how like helping her go on vacation is actually going to be helping her to be the type of person she needs to be to get that promotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat. And did you work with Jennifer or other people? You mentioned a morning routine. Can you give tips for people around the best type to create?
Yeah, well, I think I really look to the client to figure out, or I ask them, okay, what would make you feel great? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you did X, Y, and Z in the morning, what would make you feel powerful in your
Mm.
day and at peace? And so obviously for a lot of my clients, including myself,
Mm.
meditation in the mornings is something that and some people get freaked out when they hear about meditation. They're just like, oh, they imagine this like Buddhist monk on a mountain or something like that. And I had always struggled with meditation, but I actually have this app that I completely love, and it's called Insight Timer.
Oh, insight
And
timer.
they have all kind, and it's guided meditation.
Hmm. I like guided
And
ones.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah, like
The
walk me
complete
through the steps.
exactly. And they'll have affirmations sometimes that you would say. So like they'll I do typically like maybe a 10 to 15-minute meditation in the morning. If
Mm.
I don't catch one in the morning, I do it later.
Mhm.
But um it's great because it's guided. It's actually got like somewhat of a tracking thing too, where it'll tell you like how many consecutive days you've meditated.
That's
So
cool.
it kind of gamifies it a little bit to make it
Yeah.
fun. So I can tell you about a different client. Let's call her Ruth. I don't know why that. So Ruth, she she has been wanting to meditate for a long time, but she would have like this big goal of like, oh, okay, I've got to meditate for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever. So we talked about her meditating for 5 minutes a day
Hmm.
and building. And because some people, I think what happens for a lot of people is they're like, okay, I've got an exercise for an hour. I've
Right.
got to meditate for half an hour. I've got to write for 45 minutes. And then then it's like, okay, I've got to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Like that's not really practical, right? So they're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna meditate, I'm gonna exercise, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then they're not able to really do any of it,
Yeah, it
or like
seems
a
so
small
overwhelming. They're like,
portion.
forget it.
Yeah, and then they just throw the entire. So what I do is I work on these. Okay, let's baby step it. So with that particular client, Ruth, she had to figure out her evening routine because she couldn't wake up early enough to
Mm-hmm.
actually do the meditation. Like she was getting to work late.
Right.
And so with her, we're like, okay, she was like consistently going to bed at midnight, 12:30, 1,
Mm.
trying to wake up at 6. for most people, that's not really doable. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
can't do that. No way.
And so we came up with her, okay, let's just have you in bed by 11. And so eventually, like, we want to get her to the point where she can have a longer meditation, like 10 minutes, maybe do some exercise, you like maybe go for a short walk or do something. She also is studying for something, so being able to get in maybe half an hour. So we're working on building that routine.
Hmm.
But I really work with clients where they're
Hmm.
at. So a lot of times clients feel bad. They feel like, oh, like, you're helping me wake up, you're helping me set my bedtime. This sounds like I'm a child. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so there's like a lot of shame, but
Yeah.
honestly, like, I really, one of the reasons I love coaching and also have my own coach is because we need encouragement and accountability.
Yeah,
And a
for
lot of
sure.
time, most of the time, we're not really great at holding ourselves accountable because we've got so many things on our plate.
For sure. Yeah, and like I mean what you were talking about too, like with the master class that you're in with me is like it just takes the extra brain power of deciding a lot, like all the decisions, like you can just it's stressful to go Google and figure it out. So even like a morning routine, like if I've never done one, now I have to go read some books about it and do Googling and all this stuff, watch these videos, or I can just ask someone I trust, like, what do you recommend? And then you
Right.
tell me and I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Like it's just
Yeah.
it takes 5 minutes instead of 5 weeks and just so much mental strain that I can just get rid of.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times when it's in a book or something, it's a lot of it is can be very theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, this is the ideal miracle morning routine. When
Right.
that person, I mean, maybe they need something scaled down to start off with,
For
right?
sure.
Just to get like a victory in place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. It's like one of my biggest things when coaching my clients is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do this all by yourself. There's
Mm-hmm.
people who are there to support you. There's people like one of my clients has been having a major issue with clutter. and
Mm-hmm.
and so this is affecting her business. This is affecting her health to some degree because she doesn't want to come home, so
Wow.
she's staying out late, going to bed late. Like, it's affecting us. And so we talked about, and I am not an organizational specialist, but just reaching out even in the SD entrepreneurs group to find, okay, an organizational specialist, someone who could come to my house for a day, knock it out, and
Yeah.
just have it be done with, instead of like dealing with this issue months on end and having it drain you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's finding people who are already pros at that area
Yeah,
of life and business and just enlisting their help so that you can get to results faster. Makes so much sense.
exactly. Outsourcing and yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So for your book, who is the ideal reader of this? Like who out there listening now is like, was this book written for? They're like, okay, I got to write down the URL and go get it. And actually, I will have the book at copythatpops.com/Wendy. That link
Okay.
it'll redirect once the book is live on September 1st.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. And I would say it's definitely for people who maybe either are or have gone through challenges due to maybe the culture that
Hmm.
they were a part of.
Yeah.
So if you had a culture that told you, so my culture was get a great education,
Hmm.
name name brand school,
Hmm.
um, get a great job with, again, a
Name brand
respected
company.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Make a lot of money, have the nice house in the
Mhm.
suburbs, have the nice car, keep up with the Joneses,
Mhm.
and you will be happy. Like
Mhm.
that's what my culture told me.
Mhm. Mine
And
too.
yeah. And so if you are feeling maybe like you're called to do something different
Mhm.
that would make you feel more fulfilled, that would make you feel more alive, then I think, but you're feeling like, oh, well, what will people around me say? Or I'm supposed to be happy. I've been raised this way. Why am I
Right.
like, if that resonates with you, then this book would definitely be the book for you. One of the stories I share in the book is when I decided to start my coaching business and leave PlayStation, I told my mom, and I was like, and so my mom was, and especially like, and I feel in the Asian culture, but probably in a lot of other cultures as well, my mom was really proud of what I had achieved. Like she
Mhm.
liked to be able to tell her friends where I went to college, what company I worked for, things like that.
Right.
And so when I told her I was going to be leaving my company and that I was going to be having, so I did not say coaching business because I knew that my mom would not understand that.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects, especially when I started off, was around finance.
Mhm.
So I basically told her, like if I had told her, "Oh, I'm doing something that is going to support other people so that the name of my company is Your Dream Realized." So if I told her I was going to help people realize their dreams,
Uh-huh.
pursue their passions, be the best version of themselves, be truly fulfilled, she would have looked at me like I was a two-headed unicorn.
Yeah.
Like she would have been like, are you insane? Like, what language are you talking? You're not speaking English here. And so what I did was I translated that into I'm helping people with their finances.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what I told her.
I'm a professional consultant or something, like
Yeah,
a private
something.
consultant or something instead of
Yeah,
coach.
yeah. And she was like, well, how can you do that? Like you're not a financial advisor. You're you didn't study finance, like you like
Mm.
all those things. And I was just like, what I basically said was, Mom, I just need to do this. I need to do this for a year, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go back to my corporate job.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of made her feel a little better about it. And now the thing that's really amazing is she still doesn't completely get what I do, but she's super supportive.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so it's funny how
Yeah.
that turned out.
I know. I feel like at family dinners too, like people are like, so what do you do again? Or how is it going? And they kind of don't know the right questions to ask because they're so used to the traditional way.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you're just like, it's
Like
good.
lawyer, doctor,
Right,
teacher, nurse.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, you don't fit into this box, so I'm not sure how to talk to you, but I love you. So, and the world is changing. So, all this is becoming, I think, easier and easier, more and more support out there. So, if you're not feeling the support you need, then reach out to us, reach out to other people who are
Mhm.
going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing. And it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't have to, and I think that's why so many small businesses fail, because people
Yeah.
try and kind of go at it by themselves. And
Mhm.
like I can give you an example of another client of mine. So she is starting a business helping people with their job search, helping people basically find their dream job. So that
Mhm.
includes the interviewing process, that includes the resume, looking for jobs, things like that. And it's that I've been coaching her, and so many times like she would call a potential client and maybe they didn't get back to her.
Right.
And so she would make it mean something. She would make it mean, oh, well, they're not interested.
Or I'm
or
bad,
they
or like,
yeah, or they don't like, I'm not good at this, or
yeah,
and so we would work through that. And then there have been so many people that she's called and they were just busy,
I know.
right? They were
We're
just
juggling so much, all of us. Yeah.
yeah. And so she followed up with them and then they started working with her. So I'm so thankful that like she reached out for support, because if she had just kind of been on her own, she might have thought, oh, I'm just not good at this.
Yeah. And
Or
giving up
like,
too soon.
yeah, which
Mm.
is sad when it comes to like pursuing your passion and your dream.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like this is super helpful for people who are going through the journey like we are. Um,
Yeah.
my last question to kind of wrap it up with books too
Yes.
is, up to so far in your journey of writing your book, what is some advice that you might give to somebody who hasn't started writing yet, or maybe they started writing a bit, but they feel like they haven't gotten the momentum? What would be your best advice for someone?
Obviously, work with Laura.
Oh, thank you.
And Laura did not pay me to say
I did
that.
not.
Oh, that would be one thing. But I obviously hiring or working with a mentor who's
Mm,
done this before. I definitely recommend that. Practically speaking, I would say being well, actually, a couple of things come to mind.
yeah, for
One
sure.
is so one of the obstacles that I came across is so I've been working on this book on and off for a couple of years
Mhm,
on my own until I
mhm,
hired Laura, right? And one of the things that I got stuck on is I felt like the book, since I had started writing it a few years ago, what I had written back then wasn't necessarily who I was now.
mm,
So I had felt kind of like, is it authentic for me to put this out when I feel like a different person now than when I started writing the book? And actually, my coach helped me through this. And she's like, well, do you think people could benefit? Do you think that there are
mhm.
people who could still benefit from the book? And I'm like, yeah. So I hadn't looked at the book for a year. And I went back to it and I was like, oh my gosh, this would actually help that client.
Yeah,
This could actually help that client.
yeah,
So we're at whatever point you write the book, like it's going to be able to help somebody
for sure.
on their journey. So I would just encourage people to not get stuck on that. And then
Mhm.
another thing is when I was kind of re-engaging with the process is just saying, okay, I'm gonna do at least 15 minutes a day.
Nice.
And and then there were some days I didn't do it, but there were some days I did half an hour, and I did an hour, but I reconnected and I got some momentum.
Mhm.
And so and once I got momentum, then it was like, okay, this might actually be possible.
Uh-huh.
Like this, and then of course working with you and starting to see like the light at the end of the tunnel. And finally, one of the things you've helped me with is the book doesn't have to be um, like the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
There can
Like,
be more books. That's what I
yeah,
say.
and so yeah, there. I mean, I'm already thinking of the next book. I'm already thinking of what I want to include for the next book. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of going on here. The last thing. So
Oh, it's
another
good.
thing
It's good.
that's really helped me is knowing that this book this book is not about me.
Yeah.
This book is about how it's going to help and support other people with what they're going through.
I love that.
And if the book is not out,
Mm.
then that means the longer I wait to put this out, the longer I sit there and hem and haw because it's not perfect,
Mhm.
the longer I'm like, well, how is this going to reflect on me? That means that someone is not benefiting from the
Mm.
book. So I
Mhm.
would rather have it get out there
Right.
and maybe not be entirely perfect,
Mhm.
And of course, perfection is never possible.
Right.
Just have it be something that I feel great about that can help people.
I love that. That's so true. It's like if you worry about, oh my gosh, there's got to be like 5 typos spread out over these 200 pages. Where are they? I'm not going to put out till they're all perfect. Instead, put it out now and people will find them for you, and then you can fix them over time because you're allowed to update the file in Amazon. It's not a problem.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing that's so beautiful about Amazon now. Like it's not like it's set in stone, right?
right.
We can update things if we want to revise things, if we
Mhm.
want to add things. Like I was talking to you earlier, there's something that I want to squeeze into the book, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it by the launch date. But that's okay. I can add it later.
For sure. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to
Thank
definitely do
you,
a round
Laura.
2 once the book
Thank
is
you.
live so we can talk about
Yay!
how it came together and where you hit bestseller. But
Yay!
I feel like this is a great chance to share with people too what it feels like to be in the process of
Yeah.
it.
Yes, I'm definitely in it. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you again for part 2. My
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you everybody for watching.
pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
Heading down the 95, living life felt so alive. Left behind the 9 to 5 routine.
Not a clue, but feels so right. Laughing through the sleepless night. We may never see this town again.